It's all over.
What's up with it, man? What's cracking? What's popping? You are officially tuned in to AllOva Radio, the hottest new podcast show in America. And that's right, I go by the name of Loud Mouth. Indeed, down south drafted, Texas crafted. My boy Caution 700 on the board on the ones and twos officially.
What's the deal, everybody? What's good? What's going on?
What's happening, Mr. 700? How you living?
Pretty good, pretty good.
And of course, on the left-hand side of me, as usual, B. Clark in the house.
What's the deal? What's the deal?
And we are located in D-Town, Texas, man. Triple D on that north side, the city on the come up. Our mission is officially to give you the topics you want and the 411 you folks need. AllOva Radio is created by Black Kings for Black Kings and our wonderful queens and anyone and everyone who rocks with black culture and matters that concern black people.
It's all over.
We'll discuss current events, we'll discuss pertinent political matters, and we'll see what's going on in the community, as always on AllOva Radio. Now that you know the rundown, you got the 411. We're not going to waste any time. We're going to hop right into a section that we like to call Socially Influenced.
Yeah, get into it.
Yes. What is the deal? What is the deal, my people? It's your boy B. Clark, socially influenced, one time for your mind. I appreciate y'all joining me. And I got a couple topics I want to get into it with y'all.
Okay.
See how y'all feel. First and foremost, I know y'all brothers pretty well and how we communicate with each other. How do y'all feel about the stereotype that some of us have of the coming off as the angry black man?
The angry black guy.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I know us light skins, we have a little different experience. So I'm gonna pass this to my dark skinned brethren over here. How do you feel, brother?
I mean, I don't know. I think sometimes it's justified, but I think that a lot of that aggression is stemmed from something specifically. I don't necessarily believe that a lot of us are angry for no reason. So I think you would have to go a little bit more in depth to find out what it's about. But I don't know. I guess being on the inside, looking outwardly, I don't really see it as the same because, you know, I don't even conversing with my brothers and things like that. I don't really have a hard time like communicating with black men in general. Like I have a pretty good time doing so, even the ones that I meet for the first time. So I think it's taken in context, like depending on the situation and like, when did you talk to this man? Was he just finished getting arrested? Did he just, get his first child support letter in the mail? So it just depends on the situation, I guess.
You know, I think that what Clark is referring to is a lot of times we get stereotyped as the angry black person in the context of work environments because of our volume of speech or our expressions of our hands and how we communicate. I think that that's a very valid thing, and that's something that we see all the time is that we are accused of being too passionate, right? For example, if we're talking with a level of exuberance or we're excited about something and we're involved in the conversation, we get told to calm down. But yet, if we're amongst our own people, we don't get told to calm down, right?
No,
I think that's kind of, I do see that though.
I say that because I witnessed something at the job the other day, and a guy was just voicing his opinion about some improvements that can be done to help him get done faster. And mind you, some of us as black people are louder toned, if you know what I mean. And some of us don't talk at that loud or softer tone. So we're in the warehouse though with forklifts and pallet jacks and everything going. So he has to talk louder. So he comes, project. So he comes off as being pissed off, and he's already a darker skinned guy, and he kind of, after he voiced his opinion, the supervisor kind of played him like, oh shit, here he goes again with the more complaints or more, and I'm just like, I don't think it was really complaints. So that kind of just bothered me and made me feel like if we find a way to communicate, and I looked into the different types of communication: assertive communication, aggressive communication, and passive communication. And so us as black men, we need to communicate better and become more assertive communication.
Right, I agree with that completely because I've in my field of work, being in the finance world and working in the corporate world for so long, I've had no choice but to learn how to adjust because there is a certain tone that you have to take in those settings. Even if you're upset, even if what you're upset about is completely justified, you still have to have a way to communicate that without it coming off a certain way. And to not know that that's an issue, you would kind of be blind to the fact. Because, you know, I know for certain if I walk in there and say, listen, I'm putting my foot down on this and I don't think this should stand, there's a higher chance of me being released or terminated as opposed to, you know, one of my Anglo-Saxon brothers. And no disrespect to any of you, that's just a part of what your privilege has been provided to you all. So I definitely know it's there. I just have had to adjust in life a little bit differently because I've come to understand, like, it doesn't matter what I'm upset about or how loud I get. If it's justified or not, they still gonna crucify me over the neck. So
yeah, you know, I also think that I hear this complaint a lot from our queens, from black women,
probably more so than us.
And that's what I was going to say.
Way
it seems
more.
that they get this a lot. That you know, the angry black woman stereotype, or you know, oh, they have this idea that it's going to be Shaniqua popping her neck and you know,
snapping her fingers. And all that.
Exactly. And it's like we have to, as black men and women, when we're in predominantly white spaces, we have to change the way that we speak. We have to kind of talk in much lower tones.
Exactly.
We can't be as expressive. And, you know, here's the thing. I think that there's some value in learning different types of communication skills when you're in different environments. And I've had to learn that being in different environments. I've throughout my childhood have gone in the summertime or on vacations or whatever, so-called vacations, going to Chicago sometimes. That's not really a vacation. You know,
out there on the south side.
Yeah. South side, west side. Shout out to Raz Rock on the west side.
You know? Boy, you know what I'm saying?
But yeah, man, all my people from Chi-Town and, you know, being from those kinds of areas where I grew up in the burbs. So here I'm interacting with little Billy and Johnny and them, and then I go see my cousins in them, and then now I gotta change my twang, my vernacular, you know, the different words I use, and even how I talk. You know what I'm saying? Like even being in Texas, like you see, I've learned to switch up who I'm around and how I speak, and that communication skill is, you know, is very, very important. I think that's valid.
I'm learning, listen, and this is on the lighter note, but I'm learning that now, like coaching my daughter's basketball team. You know what I mean? Like I know I can't be out there like, hey, y'all need to get it together, because I know how that be looked at. So I'm learning a softer approach with them. Like, hey, even though my message is aggressive, I need y'all to be aggressive. I need you to be rambunctious out here. I still have to present it in a way to where the kids understand it, and as well as the parents watching. Like, hey, I don't want you talking to my son, or I'm sorry, y'all, my daughters anyway. Shout out to the Storm as well. Shout out to
shout out to
we took a tough loss the other day.
U12 Storm.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, we out there in Plano.
That's what's up.
PSA 1, y'all come check us out. But no, I definitely agree though, man. I do, and it's crazy if especially just sitting in those environments, and like you said, he could have been complaining about something that was completely legitimate, but they probably didn't even hear the issue. You know what I'm saying? The issue wasn't what he was saying at all.
They heard
it was
his
just
tone.
Oh, never mind that tone. There it is.
Yeah, exactly.
And even back to your other point about our queens, that was even an issue with the J. Cole thing with No Name and what he said in the tone. Like the queen tone is bothering me, and it's just kind of like, why is it that even though a person is saying something to you that can be constructive, that can be considered helpful, why is it taken in a way because of how I said it? So I think that's an interesting point.
Yeah. What, Clark?
I do have a question for y'all. Since y'all are in a different work environment than I have, because like I said, I'm in the more physical, the warehouse, and y'all are behind the desk, and you know what I'm saying, all that. So when y'all go to y'all higher ups or whoever y'all have to report to, forgive me for lack of knowledge or how whatever they call, but how do you go about getting your demands met or needed, or how do you go about asking
demands
them?
Is a strong word.
And I know, demands can be taken so wrong. Like your request, exactly. Okay. Well, when you need something done, how do you go about requesting boss about that?
For me, now I'll let you go ahead, because I go ahead. I want to hear how you go about it first.
Well, first of all, as it is not. It's already known that I am not the softest of communicators.
That's why I want to know what you have.
Okay, so I just go out and say what I need to say personally. Now I say it in a very articulate way. So I typically get criticized because somebody feels like I have belittled them, typically,
like you're talking down to them. Or
something. Or I verbally assaulted them without even saying a curse word, and they don't have a rebuttal. So it'll be like, oh, he was, he was disrespectful or rude, and I'll say, well, show me the email communication where you found anything that was insulting.
Right.
And it was really how I made you feel, because you tried to check me on something, and I lambasted you with my words, and I didn't curse or get upset. You know, so I get accused of that in email communication and that kind of thing when there's any kind of conflict. When I go in person, I tend to already have researched what I want to say. I've laid it out. Okay. And I have a counterpoint for everything, which makes people uncomfortable because they're expecting to go in here and talk me down off a point, and it's not happening. So I've lost several jobs. I'll just say that.
And listen, for me, previously to the position that I'm in now, I probably wouldn't have a constructive answer for you because I didn't really know how to communicate with the higher ups. I just always felt like every time they saw me, they were going to critique me about something completely unrelated to what my complaint was going to be about. But now, you know, I'm fortunate enough to work with an individual that brought me in. Like my direct superior is somebody that I've known for like close to 10 years now. And so now, you know, I can talk to him freely, you know, and it's not an issue. It's just as long as I bring the information. Like if I'm complaining about something, then I make sure I bring whatever I'm complaining to him in a way he can see it and it's tangible. So if it's something going on that I feel like it needs to be changed, I don't just bring it to you and say, hey bro, this needs to change. I'm gonna show you like why we need to change it and how it's affected me and my team, because you know I lead a team of people. So it's just a little bit different for me now, like and luckily I have somebody I can have that communication with. But prior to, no, there was none. There was like I get mad, I go outside, cuss, smoke a blunt, come back in, do the job. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't any you say too much, you get fired. You know
I do got a spin-off question for that too. So would you take that same approach if you didn't know him as long?
Probably so. I just would make sure that it doesn't come off as a complaint. It would just be more of a concern or an area of opportunity that we can address to make the processes better. You see what I'm saying? So I bring it to you in a way that it's more productive than it is me trying to get somebody in trouble or trying to ruffle feathers. So it's just a matter of like how I'm presenting it to them and like the perception of what I'm saying. Because the wrong word or wrong sentence or how you come off, like you say, may not end in my favor.
I have a question for y'all.
Yeah.
Do you think that this stereotype about our inability to communicate affects our ability to get raises and promotions?
That's a twofold question there. I think I would probably say a lot of the times yes and no. Right. So if you're an individual who has a history of it, then you can maybe say, okay, we can base your performance or behavioral issues. And I hate that term in the corporate where I hate
behavioral issues.
It's like, bro, I'm not serious. I hate it. Like, don't
correct
use
your
that.
behavior.
Right. You know what I'm saying? So if it's something like that, they'll use that. Say, hey, we had some issues with you. Your communication was pretty poor. Listen, I'll give you one better. I had a manager once at a company I worked for who docked me and wrote me up for my email communication. She said that my email communication wasn't professional and it came off as abrasive because I'm asking for what I want right away. I'm not fixing the email. And I was just like, are you serious? So
here we go.
Yeah.
Exactly. See, this is what I'm talking about.
So, you know, like I said, I've kind of went through it and being in these situations in life now for a little while and just kind of adjusted as I go.
Meanwhile, they're sending you in emails like our boy Kenneth Noel with no punctuation. You know what I'm saying? Misspelled words, all disrespectful, condescending, passive aggressive remarks, and when you respond back, not want to deal with that, then it's like, oh, now you're disrespectful.
Now you're disrespectful.
So I got a story for y'all, right? So I'm not even gonna put the job on blast like that, but there was a period of time where I was excelling in a particular role at a job, okay? And I'm the kind of person, I'm weird. I look forward to the year after year review. I'm asking for it.
Right.
Because I can't wait to see what you're going to say, you know, about my performance, because I know that I've been grinding. And so there was a organization I worked for a few years where each year I would come to have my review, and I was killing it. The areas where it was always an issue, somebody had some conversation with me where they said I made them feel uncomfortable or I was aggressive, but this person never addressed me.
Of course not.
Right? And so what I said was, where's the accountability to that person that they're gossiping about me or they have an issue with me, but they're too much of a coward to be quite use that strong word, but it's very much cowardly to go and tell somebody else and not come to you, right? And these are discussions where I said, okay, well, what in that conversation did the person view as disrespectful? I didn't raise my voice. I didn't call them out of their name. There was no sarcasm. There was no condescension. It was just a very direct conversation of disagreement. And we went our separate ways, and this person felt some kind of way about it, went and told somebody. That got to my manager. Now that shows my performance review. I said, okay, well, I'm going to go and address this person.
Yeah.
Okay, sit down and see where the common ground is, and I'm gonna work on communication with this individual. Okay, so I work on communication with this individual. Next year, performance review comes around. It's some other foolishness.
Some other foolishness.
Okay,
Yeah.
and I said, wait a minute, I have intentionally and consciously worked on this critique, and now here we come again, and there's some situation that is far outside of the realm of my responsibility, but yet I'm still being held accountable for it because the person perceived something some way. Well, what about my perception? And there's times where I could have ran and told that, right?
Yeah.
Like, and I find a lot of times that we don't do that. Like, we don't go run and tell on somebody.
No.
It almost goes the other way every time. Like,
like, why are you telling on me? Like, if I got a problem with you, I'm gonna come and address you and say, hey, Clark, you offended me. You know, this situation and conversation, I'm not happy with it.
Yeah.
Let's have a conversation, right? I'm not gonna go tell my supervisor.
Boss,
you know,
because nothing gets fixed. I think in being on the other side of like the I would say I won't say the executive side, but going from being an employee to a manager, one thing that I did learn is that within those reviews, right? So, and this is, you know, giving a peek behind the curtain a little bit, none of them are meant to be perfect. And even when it's deserving, there's still a method in which it is set up for you to grade an individual for there to be some sort of either, I won't say criticism, but some sort of coaching opportunity there, or area of improvement in order to keep you at a certain level, right? So even if there are certain individuals that I know are hard workers, that are at work every day and on time, the minute that individual would give one of my superiors a certain perception of them, all that's down the drain. So it could have been, man, I saw him come in one day at 9:30 and he was supposed to be here at 8. Yeah. Not knowing that this man probably had a flat tire and, you know, whatever the case may have been the whole week and has been struggling to get there. So now when it's time for his review, the perception of him is that he's lazy or he's you know, that he doesn't work hard. And it's not because that it's the truth, it's because that they only needed that one bit of something to be able to go off of. And that's the one thing that I've probably seen the most. Like, I could go through and name people, hey, I got 5-star person here. He hits every area that we want for him. Well, you know, how's his attitude? Or how is he, you know, how's his people skills? Or, you know, how's his morale with the team? Or, you know, in your one-on-one interactions with him, how does he handle feedback? That's a great one. That's one they'll use as well. How do you handle feedback? But what if the feedback is negative? You know what I mean? So it just, there's ways to, or pitfalls to get you there every time. And so they really don't want you to be perfect at all, because that means we have to increase the percentage that we have to, you know, raise every year. So if it's a 3% increase, let's rate them a 3 instead of a 5 to keep that 3% standard. Give them a hot 55 cents on this whatever year, man. So it's crazy the way that it's set up, but it definitely is.
Yeah, true story. Do it at my job, hitting his numbers. All he wanted to do was become a driver. He's working in the warehouse, selecting cases and stuff like that, hitting his numbers, like destroying the numbers, looking good, coming to work on time. He's there 45 minutes or an hour early. He leaves the door. He's actually leaving money on the table by leaving early instead of staying his full, because there you get paid by the hour. So you stay, you got a certain amount of time to
at that time
pick your
and a half.
selection. Pick your selection. You got 10 hours. It's best to pick your cases in 10 hours. But if you leave early, then you're leaving money on the table. So he was doing that, and all he wanted to do was move up to be a truck driver. Yeah. He voiced his opinion a couple of times saying, hey, man, we need to do this, we need to do that. Angry black man syndrome again. They say, no, your attitude of what you were just talking about, how you take your feedback is not good, so we don't want to move you up. We're going to hold you back. So he took that to the higher ups and communicated to the HR. They didn't like that either.
He breached the chain of command. That's cardinal sin number 1.
But he went in chain of command from supervisor to boss to second boss to third boss.
The expectation is that it stays with me.
Yeah, exactly.
Or really that you don't complain, you just shut up and do what we want you to do.
That's really what it is.
Listen, I think it's there is some things there. We know, and now I don't know if you recently saw, a lot of these black CEOs are now coming out saying that their CEOs they're being mistreated.
Right. Yeah. I can imagine.
Okay, you know, so it's there is this strange thing that happens with us that it feels this way. And again, we don't want to point out, and because I don't like having the victimhood situation going on, because I try to excel and progress in everything I do, and I try to take all the external variables and outside circumstances that I can't control and push it out of my purview. But at the same time, it does feel there are scenarios where the deck is stacked against us, and we are not wanted in places of leadership or power within an organization.
Or if we are there, it's because we have to be there. They need one of us to be there.
They need
You know
a
what I'm
quota.
saying? If that makes sense, yeah. It's a whole team of other guys, and then we need him.
Yeah.
He communicates well. He responds well to feedback, and his attitude is great.
Responds well to
I love the times where they choose those individuals where it seems like the prototype, the golden boy, and then he comes in and you think that he's everything that they want him to be. You know, race, height, scholastic history. You know what I'm saying? And he is trash, or he just comes in and stinks the whole play. I love those scenarios. I just sit back, and flip my coins and laugh at them as they come and go. But no, man, it's a real thing though.
All right, next on the docket, real quick, before we get to some good old comments. We got a lot of black men are losing their jobs, and because of the automotive industry are starting to use a lot of robotics to build their cars. Yeah.
Oh God.
Yeah. So a lot of us are trying to. I say us black people are trying to keep up and keep the money in our house. So when they insert these robots, you're wiping out a whole 3,000, 5,000 jobs for a certain area of town or a certain city of these jobs. So that kind of affects me too, because maybe, if I lose my job, or what if you lose your job and then you have to go need that warehouse job, but you can't do it because robots got it. So now what do you do?
Robots got your job.
That's what I'm saying. I'm reading this. I'm reading this. Yeah. I'm reading this story and I'm thinking the only thing I could think about it is like the movie Terminator. As you know what I'm saying, they come back and all the robots come. So it kind of is like, I don't understand. And then I put it like this: what if it starts affecting more jobs? What if we don't need to?
It sounds like this is affecting you because you mentioned iRobot on a couple episodes.
That's what I'm saying.
Now you mentioned Terminator.
Because, see,
is there something going on, Clark? You need to tell us that you have an apprehension about.
Well,
you have fear of a takeover, man. What is going on?
Cue the music. Nah, it's because, like I say, I work in two different fields, or different fields than y'all. So it's more likely that a robot can come take my job.
I did see that they had those robots that were putting the vehicles. I don't know if it's like the machines that put the cars together and do all the work for. So I did see something like that, and then I also saw they were training another robot to do like some form of police work, which is terrifying.
That's what I'm saying.
It's like if the police can't get it right, the robot's gonna do it. But no, that's kind of a scary concept.
Well, think about it. Look, who programs the robot?
That's what I'm saying.
Does the racist program the robot? Okay.
That's what I'm saying.
He puts the code in.
That is terrifying.
When you see this melanated person,
it's gonna be a picture
this
of
is
me.
how your programming operates.
You see this guy
That's what I'm
right here.
saying.
Anybody that looks like that or a few shades lighter, get after him.
Oh, robot profiling.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's trash though. I would hope, man. I mean, there's only so much that artificial intelligence can do for you. So there's the human element to everything. So I think we're far removed from it, but I do think that those industries that you're speaking of would probably be hit first if it was to happen, because those are those are things that you can program something to put a dolly up or what, I don't know, a forklift or whatever. A lot of that stuff is automated anyway, so they'll find a way to do it, especially if it's to cut any kind of cost in the business.
So Clark, is this something that you feel like just being in that industry, that there are others that are apprehensive? I'm sure that you work with Black, white, Hispanic.
Oh, yeah.
Is this a conversation that's had within the social sectors?
In my job, my line of work, kind of, because they consider as what is it? I think Amazon, you have the certain boxes just shooting down the line until certain people have to pick it up. Okay, so what if you take that aspect away, and where you got another little line that shoots it directly to the truck? You don't need that man to do that.
You take it
In my
away.
line of work, we're selecting cases, and what if you just have the robot going down the aisle picking the cases up, picking it up? I say that as opposed to it's easy for a white guy or a white lady to get a job than it is for me to get a job.
Oh yeah,
my complexion. So
if
that's
you lose your job to a robot,
that's what I'm saying. The next guy, Jimmy or Timmy, can get the job better than I will. That kind of affects me.
This is why I think we go back to talking about things like education. When even last week or last episode, we featured Nakia Douglas, who is working his tail off to educate young black males to have a skill set in teaching things like robotics, like we talked about, right? So that way now you have black brothers that are programmers. Not enough of us are going into fields that are appropriate for the year 2020 and beyond. So there's always going to be some need for physical work, right? But we have to get paid off our intellect, and we have shown ourselves to be a very adaptable people. When we learn something, we tend to excel at it. Okay, across the board, right? And so I think that this is one of those things where we have to look at this as a cautionary kind of a sign to say, okay, how can we prepare the next generation? One, to have more opportunities and to get them more interested in a variety of different topics so they can be educated on. And two, how do we keep them out of the legal system so that they're not prohibited? Because once you get in the workforce, as we talked about earlier, you already have a litany of issues, right? So you don't want to start off in a minus, a negative fashion. You want to start off like your white peers, because at the end of the day, we are the minority in the country. In fact, Hispanics have passed our population now. So we are one of the smaller, Asians are obviously smaller than us. But, we're only 14%. And so we're going to have to do more and do extra just so that we can keep ahead and progress.
Agreed.
Very true.
Agreed.
Very true. Very true. Last subject on the topic, fellas. What we all like.
Oh, yes. Is it time?
We all like good old comments.
Yes, the comment section.
From our loved ones. Like I say before, please interact with us. Share your 2 cents. Whatever you got to say, get it off your chest. Speak up. We do want to hear it, and we will, give you feedback. Very respectful, though, as my brothers would say. Very respectful.
Definitely.
So keep it peaceful. First one on the list we got right now is about AllOva Radio. It's from Adriana Rico. Am I saying that right?
Adriana Rico.
Okay.
You got to put that twang on it.
I apologize, my dear. This is my favorite podcast thus far. Keep talking about mental health. People need to hear this. Smiley face.
Yes. Is that a smiley face or a blushy face? I never know the difference.
It's a little bit of both.
Is it a both?
It's a little both.
Like, so if a female sent you that, would you interpret it as a smiley face or like, hey, what's up, kind of blushy face? Like, I'm not a female, so I don't know. Like,
so when you see that, that's what you hear. You hear that giggle.
I don't know. It looks like a flattered. It's a flattered.
So no, I just want to know. So when you read that last point, people need to hear this smiley face, and you hear that giggle too, though.
Yeah, like a little giggle.
I feel that way. I think it's like I'm smiling.
What's up with the rosy cheeks though? Right?
I'm too old to understand emojis, or I don't know what it is. I get
so confused. Like if I send this, am I flirting?
That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't want to come off wrong.
If I have a female friend and I send this emoji, like would wifey be hot?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. And that means it does have a little blushy face on it, doesn't it?
Just don't send them.
But the women can send it, and it's like it's cool, right?
Oh, yeah,
then they expect us to know what it means.
Right.
Like, oh, you sent that emoji? Like,
I tapped out. I tapped out of those type of things years ago.
I just picked
where did I go wrong? Yeah,
shout out to
motherfucker was
you,
smiling.
Adriana.
Yes,
Appreciate that.
Rico.
Hey.
Next comment we got is it weak on the topic. Is it weak for men to cry? From
There we go.
Yeah, go ahead and get that. Drum roll, please.
Boy, I'm about to butcher this shit. Ark Hataroni.
Ark Hataroni. No, so look, there's an accent. This is an Eastern European name.
Oh, well, you say it then. Go ahead.
It's Arch Horatani.
Horatani.
Yes.
Okay.
I couldn't see it.
Well, Arch, if you watching this, make sure you give us the correct way to say it, because we just destroyed that name. Back to your comment. Is it weak on the topic? Is it weak for men to cry? Absolutely. Tears are never a weakness. Honest reactions to heartfelt subjects can and occasionally should be deep felt tears. A man who doesn't or cannot cry frightens me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thanks for the comment.
So his absolutely, just to clarify, it's absolutely weak. He was answering the question that we asked on the post.
Right.
We said, is it weak? And is it okay? That's what it said. Is it okay for men to cry? And he said, absolutely. Yeah, but I like that response, man. I replied to this response and thought it was a great response. And what I said when he said a man who doesn't or cannot cry frightens me. That is true, man. Because think about all the serial killers you've ever seen. Like they don't cry.
No.
It's just like stoic, like
No emotion, right?
Yeah, that's not good.
I don't hold that against them because not every people were brought up different, and then if you're in the house raised by men and you weren't never raised to okay, it's cool to cry, you let your emotions out, and then you get around them, and then they're stone cold all the time. Not saying stone cold killers or nothing like that, but they're just you know what I'm saying, one of the toughest brothers you know, and something happened and you don't ever see them cry, then I can't really blame them for that because they weren't raised to cry.
Yeah, it's your upbringing, right? A lot, and just what you were taught, which is the reason why I think it's so important that we talked about that even in the last episode.
Yeah, very true, very true. And this last comment is from a special person. It's about kids going back to school. Would you like to read this one?
Yeah, I'll read it.
Go ahead.
So my mother chimed in for what she assumed my boy B. Clark was
Shout out.
First of all, shout out to my mom.
Listen.
And to preface this for y'all, listen, my mother is she's a Southern California individual. She is from South Central. She is from Compton. She is from Pine Bluff, Arkansas. Like she has no filter. Like if you've ever talked to my mother, like she is gonna give you the science on religion, and then she gonna backdoor and hit you with some street talk, and you're gonna be like, who is this person? You know what I'm saying? But shout out to moms though on about kids going back to school. Her take was that's a lie. All kids can get COVID-19. People that are wait. That's a lie. All kids can get COVID-19. Oh, she's telling us COVID-19 people.
Listen,
there are homeschools you can enroll your kids into if you don't want traditional COVID infested. Oh, she hit me with the double there. Safe schools. Kids would not be safe at school. If you're not safe in a grocery store, how you figure your kids are going to be safe at school?
Yeah.
I don't think that's what he was saying. Like when I had to go back and look again, he didn't say that they couldn't get it. He just said the way that we handle our children is a little bit differently. You know, and that's what he had heard or something.
Well, there was a couple people that was on Clark's head.
Yeah, they was trying to get that.
Caution mama included. They didn't like what you had to say about the grocery store. It was like she wasn't the only one. So
Yeah.
you better clarify your comments, okay?
Really, what I was saying was, nah, I'm bullshitting.
Shout out to moms though, man. Listen, what y'all gonna see if you check these comments and all the pages that I frequent and things that I got going on. My family is heavily involved.
I see a whole lot of Browns,
bro. They touch down heavy. So shout out to my family for tipping down.
What's so sad is that I'm so confused because I don't know. Because wifey maiden name is Brown, so there's a whole bunch of Browns in Milwaukee. So every time I see a Brown, it's like which one of man? Master Brown had a whole lot of Negroes.
That boy, his plantation spanned a
Master
good
Brown's
he had a few acres.
bro.
You know what I'm saying?
I mean, Master Brown had a whole lot of us, man.
But shout out to everybody, man, for commenting, sharing, chiming in. That's what we do this for. We're open to everything. So
Please
shout out to y'all. Shout out to everybody.
Yes, please do. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram. We're seeing a lot more comments pick up. Y'all continue it, man. This is an open forum. We're here talking to each other, man, but this is not us talking at you, man. We're talking to y'all, okay? Yeah. And we really want y'all to engage and give your perspective and let your voice be heard.
Right. Believe that. And that is it for Socially Influenced. I do appreciate y'all brothers and y'all 2 cents.
It's all over.
Hey, next on the docket we got Mr. Loudmouth and
Politics as usual.
Politics as usual.
Today in American politics, we are going to discuss the racial wealth gap in America and breaking off little babies with straight cash payments.
And I'm also going to send you home with $1,000 of cash money.
Cash money. But before we do that, I want to talk a little bit about our position on politics at AllOva Radio so that y'all are aware. Politics tends to always be a divisive topic to discuss. You can't seem to have a civil discussion around politics without someone becoming offended. Often our lack of tolerance for one another creates an atmosphere where no one feels like their voice is heard. When you feel silence, you tend to lash out. The place where we lash out in today's society is all across social media. But on AllOva Radio, we want to let you know that we hear your voice and we invite you to join the discussion with us. Our show is designed to talk with you, not at you, as I was saying before. And our overall goal is to give you back some of the power that comes with having your perspectives and voices heard. In other words, we want to give back the power to the people.
We want the power for the people. That's That's all we ask in our country, dear.
Yeah.
That's a jam right there.
And Curtis
boy.
Mayfield,
Listen,
man.
bro, I listened to that 3 or 4 times after you sent it to me. I let it ride.
Yeah, power to the people, man. And we want to hear y'all's voices. We mean that. And we're going to start, sourcing some of y'all's perspectives and opinions from our posts and across the web on politics and discuss some of these things. And I want to talk a little bit to go back and a thought that a gentleman had on reparations from our previous episode. And are you guys ready for a little riddle?
Okay.
It's a little riddle. And I wanted to read this because this individual took the time to put this. This was from our YouTube on Black People Demand Reparations from a guy named PB. All right, now listen to this, okay? Y'all ready? Okay, tune your ears. He says, well, you walk into the shop and shopkeeper sells a ware that is available for sale, but is morally questionable. But is available for sale, so you purchase it. A few years later, the product's banned. Now, those people who bought the product have to pay reparations for the fact the product is now illegal. Shouldn't it be the other way around? Shouldn't the shopkeeper pay the reparations? That's interesting. What do y'all think about his little riddle, philosophical riddle?
That was a good one. I think I put it on the shopkeeper, bro.
So I guess the question though is, in this riddle, we have to ask ourselves, riddle me this.
Yeah.
Who is the shopkeeper, right? Because you got to dissect this a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Who is the shopkeeper? The shopkeeper is the
slave
slave
master.
is
The
the
slave master, yeah.
Well, no.
No?
See, listen, he says you walk into the shop and the shopkeeper sells you a ware. The ware is the product. That's the slave.
That's the slave, right.
Okay? That is available for sale, but is morally questionable. But it is available for sale nonetheless, right? A few years later, the product is banned, which is the slave. Okay? Slavery is abolished. You cannot buy or purchase slaves anymore. Now, those people who bought the product, okay, the slave master, have to pay reparations for the fact the product is now illegal. Shouldn't it be the other way around? Shouldn't the shopkeeper pay the reparations? So the question is, who is the shopkeeper?
Right, that would be my next
Who authorized the sale?
Yeah. There you go.
So in his philosophical riddle, who is the shopkeeper?
America?
Yeah.
I mean, I wish we had a ding, 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 ding. Like, so this, I don't know if this person was black or white. I don't know. They have, people, I don't know what some people are having these like incognito profiles with weird pictures and you don't know who they are. But he put this riddle here and I read it a couple times and at first, your first instinct is like, should I be offended by this riddle?
Right.
But then I read it again and I said, okay, this is a good intellectual. He put some thought into this, whether he got it, curated it from somewhere else or he did it himself. I don't know because I don't know who he is. But I wanted to bring this up because in the national conversation, and it could be someone on the defense of people that bought the slaves should not pay reparations, which would insinuate that the people, children now that are white people in today's age are the sons and daughters of the slave owners. So what it sounds like he's saying is that they shouldn't be the ones to pay. Well, I guess this only works in theory because technically those that are complaining about reparations they in their minds represent America as a country.
Right.
And they're saying they don't want their tax dollars as Americans going towards reparations. That's all of the rebuttals that I've heard in the political chats when we posted this piece of content is that white people came on saying, why do we be held responsible today for things that we didn't have anything to do with? That tends to be the argument, right? But from his riddle, philosophically, it should be that the shopkeeper who is America. But then how can you have America be accountable? Where there's flaws in his thing is because you can't have America be accountable without the citizens bearing some of the accountability because where does the money come from? You're going to have to pull it from taxes. Okay, well, I don't know. Maybe you pull it from profit that's gained from tariffs or something, and you pour that into it. I don't know the solution. That's obviously a huge thing, but I thought it was interesting, and I wanted to get y'all's thoughts on this gentleman PB on YouTube that put this little riddle for us.
Oh, yeah, I like the way he put it together. But I'm with the blame being placed on the shopkeeper. You know, that makes more sense. I mean, if you have an item that's available for sale and it's, you know, technically legal, and it benefits you, your family, you know, it helps you grow your agriculture and, you know, keeps your upkeep at your plantation and things like that, you know, it's available for sale, then you may, who's to say if whoever was in that position, they wouldn't have done the same thing. It's kind of hard to really know. But I believe that the way that America is set up and the way that was a way of the world at that time, I believe that that's who should be held accountable, just because of the fact that it was illegal. And it's not something that was just going on in a specific place. It was going on across the country until things changed.
Across the Western world.
Right,
You know?
exactly. I'm sorry, excuse me. So
Western colonialism, you know.
Right, they brought it here. So they just came here with the way of the world and made it, you know, theirs apparently. So yeah, I'm with the blame being on the shopkeeper.
Yeah,
I put it on the people that's actually them, the shopkeeper and the people buying it.
Oh yeah,
you know what you're buying. You don't have to buy it, but you still go out and buy that product. As we say,
wild. That's a wild comment, though.
So you know, it's interesting though, right? So one could, from a moral standpoint, right? Okay, because I like that perspective. Alcohol is legal. You go and buy it. You get drunk. Get in a car accident. Whose fault is it? It's yours. You bought the alcohol. Coors Company is not held liable for selling you the alcohol that got you drunk, right? Because there's a moral dilemma with getting drunk. You know, do not get drunk with wine. There's a scripture that I love. You know, in excess. Why? Because we know what people do when they get drunk in excess. They act an ass. They act a fool, right? And your judgment is off.
But is that not more of like a self-inflicted type thing, as opposed to like, you know what I mean? Like, you buying alcohol for self-consumption, but you're buying a slave to essentially work for you. See what I'm saying? So
it is true. I was just speaking from the moral perspective, right? Because what Clark was saying is that, listen, like, it was legal to buy, but you knew it was wrong. You did it anyway, right?
Yeah.
So you still bear, even though it's the law of the land, do you still not bear some accountability? And that's what I brought up to alcohol, because although it is the law of the land to purchase alcohol at a certain age, you still bear the brunt of responsibility for purchasing that product and the consequences that come from any misuse of it. So I guess that's what I'm saying from the moral perspective. But this is a cool little comment.
I got a question though. Enlighten me on this, and then I want in the comments to enlighten me if y'all know better than I do. So how does, like, you on your alcohol twist, how does the bartender get? I've heard some cases that he get blamed for selling a person so much alcohol,
over serving.
Over serving, but Budweiser or
for crafting and making this
there
concoction.
You go. That's what I'm saying. How do they not get blamed? Is that kind of not
exactly
hand in hand? Like, we got
warning labels.
No.
That's how they be.
Does that not make sense?
No, I'm glad you brought that up, because back in the day I waited tables a lot, and that was a big thing, you know, with over serving people.
Yeah.
And I always, I hated that, the idea of that. Like, you are a grown ass adult. It is not my responsibility as another adult to tell you that you can't have any more drinks.
What your limitations are.
You should know how you're behaving. I see people will go out and drink at a bar for hours and not eat a single thing.
Lord.
That is the most asinine thing. Like, what are you doing? There's such a lack of responsibility, but yet the TABC in Texas will say, bartender, restaurant, you are responsible if this person gets in a drunk driving accident because they drank too much, they got in their car, they crashed into somebody, but you served them. Well, I don't know your tolerance.
Exactly.
Some people, like for me, I don't drink a lot of alcohol, so my tolerance is super duper low.
Mine too,
You see what I'm saying? But I know people that are my size, man, that can drink people y'all size under the table.
Oh, yeah.
So who's to know? Like, so now what I'm doing is monitoring your behavior, right? You're making me responsible to watch you, as I'm also having to do my job. I have to serve people. I got to make drinks. I got to get bar food. I got to go over here. And now I got to watch your slurred speech, mannerisms, behavior, how you're interacting with other patrons, and then make an uncomfortable, awkward decision to tell you that you can no longer drink. That should not be on the onus. I agree with you for the bartender. That should be on the individual consuming the alcohol.
So what happens then? Okay, say you're busy waiting tables, 3-4 tables is a popping night. one of your other or waiters come around and they ask them for another drink. How does that work out? He hasn't been monitoring that guy. You see what I'm saying? He brings him another drink. Then what do?
Well, the restaurant then is held liable if that person goes out and gets in a drunk driving accident and hits somebody and hurts somebody.
That's kind of.
You see what I'm saying? Like this level of we put the accountability on the wrong people, and even going back to his thing is that I think that's what he's raising is that where is the accountability? And even there are a lot of obviously people that have racist intent that we encounter on social media that have a problem with reparations, but there are just some white people that I've encountered that really just don't understand why, and they just want a fiscally responsible answer. They've asked, like, okay, well, tell me how we should handle this, because I don't see how in 2020. And the answer really is that the American government should have made good on what they first promised, and we probably wouldn't be talking about this right now. And if they had have acted decently, through the last 50, 60 years or 100 years, then we wouldn't be having the conversation. But this was great, man, to have this, man. Shout out to you, PB, for putting this on here. Thank you so much for engaging with us in conversation.
Definitely.
All right, gentlemen, so now I want to transition to babies getting paid. Let me get that drop again, man. Let me get that cash money, man. I want the cash money. Come on, I want to hear about the cash money.
And I'm also going to send you home with $1,000 of cash money.
Cash money. Thank you, Wilmer. Cash money. And that's what we want to talk about today, the wealth inequality or the wealth gap, okay? And the specific cash money that we're talking about is from Cory Booker and something that we're calling baby bonds, baby bonds, right? And just to preface before we start into baby bonds, to identify what wealth inequality, for those that don't know, wealth inequality in the United States exhibits a wide disparity of wealth between rich and poor than any other major developed nation, okay? We equate wealth with net worth, the sum total of your assets minus liabilities. And there is a gap between those that have and those that have not. And a lot of the people that are proponents for assisting black people on the Republican and Democratic side will say that if we fix the wealth gap, right? Now, some are more liberal and will say, okay, well, that looks like reallocating wealth from the top 1% down. And you hear people like Cortez out there on the East Coast, Ocasio-Cortez, right, and the Bernie Sanders, right, and the Republicans have a problem with the idea of wealth distribution and putting high tax rates. So this is a big issue in America, but if we can tackle some of these things, perhaps we can eliminate some of the discrimination or discriminatory practices against black peoples and black communities, and that is what they're trying to solve with wealth inequality and the wealth gap. So this particular solution by Senator Cory Booker, y'all probably know him, Democratic light-skinned brother. Shout out to the light-skins. Although he's super light, he a different category of light. You know what I'm saying? He's almost not black. He's so light. But he put this to actually forth this proposal in 2019, and it kind of like, it seems every 5 to 6 months pops back up. I see articles after he went for the Democratic bid and he dropped out of the race. This conversation came back up again in January, then again in June, and people keep talking about it. And there are some theorists, economic theorists, that think this is a good idea. Okay, so let me tell y'all what this is. Under Senator Booker's bill, every newborn would receive an initial endowment of $1,000. Then each family's annual income would be used, given the lack of data collected by the government on family wealth, as the basis for the sliding scale to determine the amount of each annual contribution to the child's endowment. Okay, the American Opportunity Accounts is what it's called, the baby bonds, would be held by the U.S. Treasury Department until the child becomes a young adult. At that point, the young adult could use the endowment to invest in an asset such as education or a home. The intent is for every young person to enter their adult life with an endowment that would lead them to future economic security. According to our estimate, if today's 18-year-olds from families in poverty had received baby bonds, they could start adulthood with an endowment up to $42,000.
Wow.
Okay? So it would give you a G, pretty much almost a year, that would accrue some sort of interest, that by the time you're 18, you got about 40, 50K in your bank account that the Treasury would hold, and then you would have to go through steps to release that money for your education or the purchase of a home. So the idea is to eliminate poverty, right? Because what are the two biggest things? Education and cost of living.
Right.
Okay. Right. So if I have my own home, or I can put money down towards the purchase of a home, and I don't have to, and then I have a job and I'm educated, right? Then I have equity in the neighborhood. Okay, I'm not having to be a renter. I'm a homeowner, right? And we create more stability in communities. So this is the idea behind this. What do y'all think about this baby bonds, man, and this straight cash money every year till you're 18?
I'm not mad at it.
Not mad at it at all, yeah.
Is it retroactive?
I got some questions.
The hell was this? Where was this at for me? But I think that would be awesome. I mean, you get to a certain point, like I said, you can start adulthood with 42 G's. That means, you get to that phase where, what your parents say, you 18, you got to get out of my house. It's like, okay, cool. I got 42 cents. I got 42 racks in the bank right now. I'm good. Now, do I think it would make a difference? Yes, of course. Now, depending on who has access to that 42,000 once that kid gets to a certain age. If it's only them, then yeah. But you know how it is. Parents that keep a kid in the house. Hey, you go take that 42,000 out. We in debt here. We could put that towards some of these bills. This house need to be paid off. So those type of things you have to watch out for. But
you know what that reminds me of? You remember the movie In Time or something like that with Timberlake? And they had the little joint on their arm. And so they was born, they was put with
a certain amount of money.
Yeah, and then when they hit like whatever it was, they were able to use that time.
Right.
Yeah,
but some parents was taking it from their babies as soon as they hit a certain age and using it for bills and debt that they owed.
So it's just about how who's there to help you manage it. Because having $42,000, $42,253,000 or whatever the case may be when you're 18 is cool. Mismanaging it is just as easy as it was for them to hand that check over to you. So I think that's an important part of it too, is having somebody that can teach you how to, invest your money and spend it in the right way so where you don't blow it.
We already see that with the athletes.
Man.
As soon as you go from not having a dime in your pocket overnight to signing your contract, whether with whatever sport it is,
they lose their
millions. Mind. That's what I'm saying. You see how they act. So just average Joes that ain't playing the profession that we go to 9 to 5s every day.
Yeah,
you give me 42K. That's a shitload of money.
Man, it'd be. I'm not even gonna say what I'd have done with that, but it wouldn't have been.
That's what I'm saying, right? Because when you come from lack, though, right? And you there was a line from Joe Moses that I like from our playlist. Y'all go rock the Texas to Cali playlist on Spotify. It's all over media. But Joe Moses from LA, on one of the songs that he had on there, he said, "Ignorant like you, my first check, I bought a chain." And I love that line because it was so real. It was like, okay, he's admitting like, yeah, I'm learning, but and we're on the same page. Like, I get it. So I like the fact that it's like it's specific things: education, asset, house, something that's going to help you. Because the house, you can flip the house,
right? That's an
Mr. Flip the Mule. You like flipping stuff.
Right. Still waiting on my mule.
Yeah, you still waiting on that mule. But you can flip the house. You can, put things into it, and that can turn into investment dollars or something else. So it's teaching financial responsibility. You just can't like take the money out and go buy J's with it. Right. Now here's the thing though, right? For every good idea comes a cost.
Oh yeah,
of course.
All right. How much do you think that this would cost the American population?
Couple trillion.
With the rate of childbirth in America,
boy,
every child is probably like some family out here with 10 kids.
A year. What do you think? A year? It'll cost
somewhere in the billions. I'm assuming.
I'm gonna say 2 trillion.
2 trillion. Not that much.
No.
Actually, from an American government standpoint, it's high, but it's not super high. So. Senator Booker's office estimates the cost to be $60 billion annually.
Oh, 60 Oprahs. Okay.
But they not.
Oprahs.
That's cool.
How many Jeff Bezos is that? Right?
One.
Is that one Jeff Bezos? And how many? It's like two Elon Musks. Two Elon Musks a year.
For real.
They take an account of once people get a whiff of this that just want to start having kids.
Well, see, but that would be pointless because it doesn't benefit the parents.
Because they don't get anything until the kid gets to be 18.
With no loopholes.
No,
is this completely solid? All the
they're
T's
not
crossed,
supposed to
I's
get the
dotted.
1,000
No,
until they get
the
older,
Treasury
right?
Department
Yeah.
would hold the money
Oh,
until they
yeah.
get 18. So
You
the
just
parents
got
can't
a bunch
access
of
the
kids.
money.
Okay, so what happens?
You have to
okay.
like kill your kid. Something when he's 8, when they're 17.
So there you
Come
go.
here,
Happy
kill your
birthday,
kid.
son.
What happens if the kid dies before the money is released?
That's a good question. I'm sure that these are probably what they discuss in the Senate. You know, like what happens in these scenarios. I mean, the money probably would have to be reallocated because that's the taxpayers' money.
Is it just held somewhere?
It's probably it's probably just you don't if you die, or they may have what will be cool. Let's say unfortunately an untimely death, because that's what that is. If I say if now people die every day unfortunately, but if a child dies, yeah, man, it's real out here, But before 18, maybe that money then goes to some sort of like community or charity. Now that would be dope, right?
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
You see what I'm saying? If that it's as opposed to just going back to the government, it goes into the same community where that kid maybe passed away in to some sort of vetted organizations that can take that money and do work in that kid's behalf on his name.
My next question is, what if I don't spend all of that on putting it down towards the house or towards education? If that makes sense. You find a cheap house or something like that.
Don't get caught up like they've been doing.
You can't find no house for no $50K unless that's gonna be $50K is really just a down payment.
Down payment, right?
You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, but think about a $50K down payment. Like what's the ratio, man? I feel I should know this percentage, but there's a certain percentage that you have to have down on your home, and I'm trying to think. So if you
10%, excuse me, is it 10%?
Well, no, 10. So let's say it's $250,000 house. 10% of $250,000 is what? That's $25,000, right? Yeah. So really, it's more like 20% because you actually on a $250 house you want to have $50,000 down because you got all the closing costs that come in and involved in that, right? So you typically want to have 20% up front of the value of the house added into the closing costs. So about $50,000 could afford you a house for $250,000. Now here's what's interesting. Do you say, okay, I'm going to buy a house in my neighborhood, like for example in California, cost of living is very high.
Right.
A house that's $250,000 looks very different than a house $250,000 in Dallas. So do I say, deuces, I'm going to go move somewhere else where my $50K, I can get me a $300,000 house.
I'm going to make this work.
And that goes on along the lines what I'm saying. What if I buy a cheaper house because I come to Texas and then I still got money, they still leaving me some money. I got an extra $15,000 or something like that. You see what I'm
education.
Then that just sits in the bank. That's what I'm saying. Is it just sits in the bank
according to what they're saying, it sits with the Treasury Department until you have the approved uses. Since this is a proposal, it's not fully fleshed out, right? Like, so I'm sure there's probably, if I went to go see the bill he presented on the Senate floor, that it probably has all the nuances. And then maybe we follow up with it, you know what I'm saying, and ask that. And maybe that's something that even y'all can tell us if, honestly, as our crew, because we're having a discussion. Like, we don't claim to be experts at everything. At all. We're bringing
I know more than us, man. Put your
for real.
2 cents in.
Seriously, if you know more about the baby bonds, you have an understanding of that, and you've heard of this, or if you go and research some things, please come back, join the discussion, and let us know. We're really curious to see have some of these questions answered. Senator Cory Booker, if you're listening, I know we're not the Breakfast Club, but feel free to pop in the comment section and give us your 2 cents.
Yes, sir. Please do. Please do.
Yes, sir. 2 cents, please.
Awesome, man. That's awesome information. Shout out to Cory Booker and everything he's doing. I know we've been talking recently about things to give back and causes to feed into and things like that. And those are all awesome and things like that. But listen, if y'all are just looking to donate some money to somebody, you're more than welcome to donate to AllOva Radio and AllOva Media, and we will disperse of these funds in the proper ways for you. We'll give it out to charitable causes. We'll put on events and things like that. We actually say so. That's just an idea too, because we seem to be throwing feathers in a hat right now. So I'm there, but definitely, like you said, definitely chime in and let us know, anything that's going on. If you feel like it's somebody that should be included in the community impact section or any of these situational things, just let us know. So now that we're here, let's move on actually to that community impact report with my guy Loudmouth.
You need to get up, get out, and get something. How will you make it if you never even try?
Yes. You and I got to do for you and I. This is the Community Impact Report, and we want to talk about things that are going on in the Black community. To continue on the point of being a discussion-based show, we want to highlight nonprofits and organizations, as we've said, but we also want to talk about hard issues and topics that happen in the black community and stories. And one of the stories that I saw within the community that I wanted to bring to everyone's attention and just talk about some of the problems with domestic violence that we have. And this is something that is bemoaned, especially amongst our black queens, that they don't feel protected by their black kings. And out in the wild, right, on social media, online, even entertainers and athletes, you see them getting very upset when they feel like well-to-do black men pass sisters up for others, right? And not to judge anybody's, who you fall in love with, but there is something to acknowledge with how we as black men treat our black women, and they need to hear that we care. And one of the stories that I heard was a very sad story by a young lady named Tanisha. I want to say it's either Pewsley or Pugsley. Forgive me, let her rest in peace if I pronounce her last name incorrectly. But she was a victim of a violent crime by her ex-boyfriend. She was 27. She was a detective in Alabama, guys, and she was killed a few months ago. And you don't really hear about the stories. I just heard this story. It popped up, and it's just sad that, a black man will die like George Floyd, but this beautiful young black woman who seemingly had everything going for her in her life, is a detective in Alabama at 27 years old in the community. There's pictures of her playing basketball with kids in the community. And her insecure boyfriend, who could not deal with rejection, murdered her. And I want to read this to you. So on Monday at about 2:15, this was I want to say this is July 7th. Okay, I'll just say the ex-boyfriend of an Alabama detective is facing capital murder charges for killing her during a domestic dispute. And this happened in Montgomery. They responded to a 911 call about a shooting. Now, the officers and fire medics found off-duty detective Tanisha Pugsley suffering from a gunshot wound at her home on Overview Drive. She was pronounced dead at the scene. The shooting appears to be domestic related. Later on Monday, Montgomery police arrested Brandon Webster, 24, sucker, in connection with Pugsley's death. Man, and they found and took him into custody, man. And you read the story. Essentially, she actually filed a restraining order against him. And she was, I guess, holding the godchild. She was babysitting, and they got into a little argument, and he put his hands on her and caused her to drop the infant. And so she said, okay, that was the last straw. I guess they were living together. And look, that's a whole nother, I know that this is a very liberal, nation, man, but I have certain thoughts about that. Miss Pugsley got herself in an unfortunate situation with a guy that she should not have given her trust to. She was too beautiful, too smart to put her trust in this individual who obviously was not secure in himself, didn't value himself, had no vision of his life, and had nowhere that he was going. Because when he was told that he no longer had access to Miss Pugsley, he could not deal with that like a rational, responsible adult male. And he responded by not only ruining her life and her family's life, ruining his own damn life. Because now he's going to either be on death row or spend the rest of his life, another wasted black life, in jail. So we've wasted two black lives, 27 and 24, over something that probably was so minute in nature that he couldn't deal with his feelings and emotions. While we talked about last week, black men and their feelings and emotions, that he took her life. And this is a sad, somber story, gentlemen, and I wanted to just get your thought, like, why do you feel that he went this direction? Like, I know we've all had breakups, and we're not perfect. I'm sure that there's been situations where we've not acted the best around women, and we're probably guilty of that in some situations across our life, whether we were young teenagers or whatever else. But what do you think led this man to commit this act in that way?
My honest opinion, I think that she told him that he didn't want her, or she didn't want him anymore. And just hearing that rejection and not being wanted, took him over the top. Because some men don't handle that well, regardless of race, color,
at all,
anything. You hear, no, I don't want you anymore, or I moved on, or I have somebody else. meaning you're out completely out of the picture. Some men don't handle that wrong, so that probably just, and not just like we talked about his mental health. We don't know where his head was at. He could have been a loose cannon or short, so that probably set him off and took the young lady life, which he didn't have to.
You know, what's interesting to me is that this affected him so much so, this relationship. And then honestly, you know, I know it's a funny topic, but entanglements, man. We talk like Jada Pinkett and Will Smith and your boy Alcina with the entanglements, but when you make wisdom and discernment is really important, and understanding people's character is very important. I wonder how many signs there were.
I'm sure.
Okay,
the writing was well on the wall.
Right, for the sake of love, and it's not it's not to victim blame at all whatsoever. Because she didn't deserve to die. So I want to make sure that women don't think this is what we're doing. But in life, we all should have discernment of knowing the quality and character of somebody. This guy, for a couple months, actually was stalking her, burner phones, sending her threatening text messages. She was trying to move on. And so my question, you know, that I have is a man's purpose, right? Like, there's a phenomenal thought leader named A.R. Bernard, and he has this quote that a man, and forgive me, A.R., if I don't say it completely accurately, but a man without a vision is a man without a future, and a man without a future always turns to his past.
Right.
And I think that when you have things going for yourself as a man, okay, when you have your own life, you're stable, you're confident, right? You value yourself, you know who you are, you know where your direction is going. If a woman rejects you, it doesn't knock you off your pivot.
Right.
You just say, all right, cool, boo, that didn't work. I enjoyed your company. You know, I'm disappointed that I wish it could have ended differently, but I have a goal in mind. I think that unfortunately so many of us black brothers don't know where we're going. We don't know our identity. We're out here in the land of the lost. We are getting our identity from the culture as rappers or entertainers or athletes, and then there's no other place for us to go. So like you said, who knows at 24 where he was, and now he's got this beautiful, ambitious black sister that he probably didn't feel like he even deserved,
Probably so.
or felt worthy of her. Okay, and there were signs that his insecurities were starting to bubble up. Okay, and now, like I said, I don't know this man personally. He could have just been 100% nut. I would like to think that he wasn't. I would like to think that this was a progressive thing, that he got to this place, okay, and it manifested, it culminated into ruining her life and his own. But these stories, man, how do we heal? I mean, how do we give our black women more confidence that we have their back? How do we avoid these types of toxic situations? How do we learn more about each other so we don't get into relationships with people that we don't belong with, which I think is a big issue?
And you took the thought right out of my head, especially speaking towards this situation. I know as a young man, and probably in his circumstances, he probably had a certain level of dependency on that person, and not just like on the financial or the materialistic side, but I know in my situation, growing into my manhood and dealing with women and things like that, I had a tendency to lean on them for the things that I may have had as weaker points in my life. So if I wasn't financially stable, things like that, if I wasn't able to
didn't have a car or something like that,
a car or just, you know, a place to lay my head that was calm and you know, collected, you know, those are the things that we look for because we're so used to that dependency on our mothers and things like that. And so with him, in my mind, when I hear it, even though you have that dependency on a woman, you still take it for granted when you're young. And so, you know, you treat your woman whatever kind of way, knowing that you depend on this woman for your livelihood, your clothing, your food every night. And so at a certain point, and then, you know, I hate to reference them, but when a woman's fed up, we know how those things go. They're done. And so for us at a young age, we don't have the propensity or the mind frame to know how to deal with that form of rejection.
That's interesting.
It's life altering a little bit. You know what I mean?
How long did it say they were together? Did it say they were together for so many years?
I didn't. Yeah, it was a good amount. They were living together,
right?
They didn't have any kids.
But see, even being with a person for so long, that familiarity and can affect you too. And then when they're gone like that, I'm done with you. That sets you off.
You know what? You said something, and I'm so glad. Like, this is the reason why I love these discussions, right? Because we all have different life experiences. Like, since I grew up with a father, I didn't even think of that. But now, when you said it, was like, oh man, so many of my family members and friends didn't grow up with fathers.
Right.
And so when you said, it's kind of like Baby Boy.
Yeah, it's
right?
the same thing, the same concept.
Like we all know cats that like been living off females. Still to this day, okay.
I've never out of it.
Yeah, I never understood that. So you know what? It could have been that. It could have been where he got him a baddie. She had a good job. He was living off of that comfort and that luxury. And when she was like, "Nah, I'm fed up with you, Broham," kicked him out of the house. Now it's like he didn't have nowhere to go, or he didn't have any significance. And that's why I mentioned the purpose, because the purpose is important. If you have that purpose, you don't want to even live under a woman's roof and not provide.
Exactly.
Right? You have a sense of pride as a man to say, nah, I got this. Like, I can take care of my own rent. I can take care of my own stuff, right? Yeah. And you're right. Like, living, if you've also been raised with only a woman, there's a level of comfortability around women. And when you get that rejection, those emotions, you don't know how to deal with it.
It triggers something there. It triggers something. And I'm only speaking from experience, and you know, and just to kind of, like I say, the peek behind the curtains for me, I don't know if I'd ever felt the type of pain or rejection that I felt when me and my significant other wasn't together anymore. And it happened I swear to you, it happened at the same age as this young man. Wow. And so to look at it and to know where I was, I don't think in my life, like, I've been through quite a few things in my life, you know what I mean? But I don't think I'd ever dealt with anything like that emotionally before. Like, I could care less if my father was in my life again. But it was like that love I had established with that person was so deep that once it was taken away, I was lost. And so it luckily for me, it caused me to say, okay, this is what I need to do to get back on the right path. But you know, like we talked about last week with the mental health of us and not really having nobody to talk to, that might have been his person to talk to. And so you cut that and that's it. You know what I mean? So yeah, you just never know what was going on there. But it's just the bigger issue, like you're saying, is how we treat our queens as a whole, because I've heard that sentiment from multiple individuals. I've had conversations with women at work or, you know, at barbershops and things like that, and there's always that theme of, hey, I left this dude and he went crazy. I was with this guy and I told him it was over and he was hiding outside of my house in some bushes. Or, you know, my ex showed up to my wedding, or you know what I mean?
That's crazy.
But there's something in the minds of men, and I don't even want to say black men only, but we feel a certain amount of ownership over women, or we feel like nobody's gonna love you like I love you. So, or whatever it is that causes people to get there. I don't understand what it is, but I do see that there's a need for us to be behind our queens more so than any other time right now. Second class citizens isn't even a word I would, or a subject I would even frame around them, because I feel like sometimes it's lower than that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think that the things that happen, even with the Breonna Taylor thing, if you look at it how it is, this thing happened quite some time ago. And it seemed like things are revving up now. You've seen the athletes talk about it a bit more. All these kind of things are going on, but there's multiple cases like this with women that nobody is talking about. The young woman in Fort Worth, Tatiana Jefferson, they got killed in her home. There was no protest for her before George Floyd. You see what I'm saying? And this lady is right in our backyard. So it's just a matter of the perception and how we see it, and are their lives as valued because it's a little more quiet when it happens? You know, is the story about her boyfriend making it out of the shootout with the police more exuberant or more to talk about than her losing her life? It's just so much, man, and it hurts to even dig into it.
It does, man. And I feel it, you know, because, you know, again, like, not to pass judgment. All three of us in here, our significant others are women of African descent. Okay, you know, and so we hear it in our household every day. Right? Just how they don't feel valued. And sometimes I feel like we end up getting the brunt of it too, by the way they're treated out in the wild. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's one of the issues there, man. But, you know, I don't want to get too much there, because I think
that's a whole other show.
Yeah, that's a whole other show. But again, if you have something to say, if you have thoughts and comments about this story, we want to get your feedback. Please engage in the dialogue. Before we get out of here, I do want to feature, though, a positive organization that's doing something right here in the local Dallas community. And this nonprofit is called Develop University. Shout out to my boy Brandon Watts. who is actually from Pasadena.
Nice.
So we keep rocking it with that Cali, Texas Cali connection, if you know what I'm saying. And we're continuing on that. But he is the executive director of Develop University, and their goal is to equip the participants with tools and resources necessary to make responsible decisions in high school and beyond. They achieve this by cultivating participants in their 3 program pillars, which are emotional intelligence, character building, and community service. So this is what they do. I've been to a couple of their programs. They do really cool different things like picnics, and they have seminars and they have classes. You can look at developuniversity.org and see kind of about their pillars and their platforms and how they're impacting the community. I want to, like I said, I give a shout out to Brandon Watts from Pasadena. He's here in the Dallas area. He is another phenomenal educator. Oh my goodness, I can't speak, man. I can't speak. But he's doing great things for the community all around Dallas. In fact, funny enough, we talked about Nakia Douglas as well. He was living on the north side of things, and he purposely moved south so that he could do more of this work in hard-pressed areas of the community. So I wanted to give a plug to him. He's a Cali native. We love our Cali-born natives. Yes, and of course, he got the right team. He a Raiders fan. So let me just give that. Let me give that.
You don't get an applause for that.
Yeah, hater. All right, man. But as always, we thank y'all for tuning into AllOva Radio. We thank you so much. Go to It's AllOva Radio on all of our platforms: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. It's AllOva Media on YouTube. Join the conversation, y'all. We want to hear your voice. Let your voice be heard. Be a part of us. Open forum. It's AllOva Radio. I'm Loudmouth. Caution 700.
Yes,
B.
sir.
Clark.
Hey, yo.
Peace.
We all finished or y'all done?
We finished, Birdman.